The United States is grappling with a devastating fentanyl crisis. This synthetic opioid is highly potent and extremely dangerous. It has flooded the nation, leading to a surge in overdose deaths. In recent years, fentanyl has become the leading cause of death for Americans aged 18 to 45. The crisis has touched every corner of the country, leaving countless families shattered in its wake. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, or CDC, has sounded the alarm, reporting approximately 90,000 overdose deaths in the 12 months ending August 2024. Addressing this crisis is a top priority for the Trump administration. The fentanyl crisis evolved in stages. Initially, the focus was on prescription opioids. Overprescribing practices and a lack of awareness about the addictive nature of these painkillers fueled a wave of addiction. As prescription opioids became more tightly regulated, people turned to heroin as a cheaper and more readily available alternative. Now fentanyl dominates the illicit drug market. It is cheaper and easier to produce than heroin, making it incredibly profitable for drug traffickers. The crisis has placed an immense strain on healthcare systems and law enforcement agencies. First responders are overwhelmed with overdose calls. Hospitals are struggling to keep up with the demand for addiction treatment. Law enforcement is stretched thin trying to stem the flow of fentanyl into the country. The crisis demands a comprehensive and coordinated response. The administration is committed to tackling this crisis head-on and providing relief to communities ravaged by addiction. In a decisive move, President Trump signed an executive order designating Mexican cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. This unprecedented action reflects the severity of the threat posed by these criminal organizations. The cartels are responsible for producing and trafficking vast quantities of fentanyl into the United States, fueling the ongoing crisis. The executive order grants the U.S. government additional tools and resources to combat these dangerous groups. The designation as terrorist organizations allows the U.S. government to target the cartel's finances. It enables the Treasury Department to freeze their assets and block financial transactions. This can disrupt the cartel's operations and make it more difficult for them to profit from their illicit activities. The designation also strengthens the U.S. government's ability to pursue criminal charges against cartel members. Furthermore, the designation as terrorist organizations opens the door for increased military involvement in the fight against drug trafficking. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has indicated a willingness to use military force against the cartels, including airstrikes and special operations. He emphasized that all options would be considered to secure the U.S. border from threats originating from Mexico. This shift in military posture underscores the seriousness with which the Trump administration views the threat posed by the cartels. The designation of Mexican cartels as terrorist organizations has sparked debate and controversy. Some argue that it is a necessary step to combat these powerful and dangerous organizations. They believe that the cartels meet the criteria for designation as terrorist organizations, citing their use of violence, intimidation, and corruption. Others express concerns about the potential for escalation and unintended consequences. They worry that the designation could further destabilize the region and lead to increased violence. The Trump administration has made securing the U.S.-Mexico border a cornerstone of its strategy to combat the fentanyl crisis. The administration argues that a porous border allows drug traffickers to easily smuggle fentanyl into the country. To address this, the administration has implemented a multifaceted approach that includes increased Border Patrol agents, enhanced surveillance technology, and the construction of a border wall. The administration has significantly increased the number of Border Patrol agents stationed along the U.S.-Mexico border. These agents are tasked with patrolling the border, apprehending individuals attempting to cross illegally, and seizing drugs and other contraband. The administration has also invested heavily in surveillance technology, including drones, sensors, and cameras. This technology provides Border Patrol agents with greater situational awareness and enhances their ability to detect and interdict illegal activity. The construction of a border wall has been a highly contentious issue. The Trump administration argues that the wall is essential to deterring illegal crossings and preventing the flow of drugs into the country. Opponents of the wall argue that it is ineffective, expensive, and environmentally damaging. They believe that the resources allocated to the wall would be better spent on other border security measures, such as increased personnel and technology. The administration's focus on border security has been met with mixed reactions. Supporters argue that it is essential to protect national security and combat drug trafficking. They believe that a secure border is necessary to maintain law and order and prevent the entry of dangerous individuals and substances. Critics argue that the administration's approach is overly harsh and inhumane. They point to the separation of families at the border and the detention of asylum seekers in overcrowded and unsanitary facilities. The fentanyl crisis is not just a U.S. problem, it's a global issue that requires international cooperation. The Trump administration has engaged with Canada and Mexico to address the crisis collaboratively. This includes sharing intelligence, coordinating law enforcement operations, and working together to disrupt the supply chains of fentanyl. Despite the collaborative efforts, President Trump has criticized Canada's role in the fentanyl trade, claiming that fentanyl flows into the U.S. from Canada. However, data suggests that while Canada faces its own opioid crisis, it is not a primary source of fentanyl entering the U.S. Canadian authorities have made record fentanyl seizures and are actively cooperating with their U.S. counterparts. The future implications of the Trump administration's approach to the fentanyl crisis remain to be seen. The designation of Mexican cartels as terrorist organizations and the increased focus on border security represent a significant shift in strategy. It is too early to assess the long-term effectiveness of these measures. The fentanyl crisis is a complex and multifaceted problem that demands a comprehensive and sustained response. It requires a combination of law enforcement, public health, and diplomatic efforts. International cooperation is crucial to addressing the global nature of the crisis. The Trump administration's actions have undoubtedly shaken things up, but the long-term consequences are still unfolding.